guys, welcome back. Now today, I'm going to be ranking every NHL team's most underrated player. Now there are lots of NHL players in the league that haven't quite gotten the recognition that they really do deserve. So who do I see as the most underrated players in the entire NHL, and who is every NHL team's most underrated player as of 2019? Watch till the end to find out. Now, just like overratedness in the NHL, underratedness in the NHL is a big gray area. There isn't any true right or wrong or black and white. Honestly, it just differs from a person to person. So keep that in mind when viewing my opinions in this video, and of course opinions of everybody that posts their underrated players in the comments down below. Just like all the other ranking videos on this channel, we're going to go in alphabetical order, starting with the Anaheim Ducks, going all the way down to the Winnipeg Jets. And starting with the Ducks' most underrated player, I have Ondrej Kase. A right winger at age 23, Czech Republic born. He was drafted 205th overall in the 2014 NHL draft. Right now, he's looking like an absolute steal. This past season for Anaheim wasn't completely healthy, but did play 30 games. In those games, got 11 goals, 9 assists for 20 points overall. He's an absolute beast offensively, one of the more underrated offensive powerhouses in the league. He's also very solid defensively and has a very strong two-way game. Now moving on to the Arizona Coyotes' most underrated player, I have Vinny Hinostroza. The right winger at age 25, he was drafted 169th overall in the 2012 NHL draft. Pretty nice selection right there by the Chicago Blackhawks. But when it comes to Hinostroza, both with Chicago and with the Arizona Coyotes, I think he's been very underrated, especially offensively. This past season with Arizona, played 72 NHL games, getting 16 goals, 23 assists for 39 points overall. And the offense, I think, is a huge asset from him. He's a good play driver. I think he's very clutch in the right opportunities. And for Arizona, a team that doesn't have much offense, he's very valuable. And those 39 points, again, are very good on Arizona. Moving on to the Boston Bruins' most underrated player, I have Sean Kuraly. Center at age 26, drafted 133rd overall back in the 2011 NHL draft. Another steal on this list, by the way. But when it comes to Sean Kuraly, he's kind of worked his way up in the last few years in the AHL system of Providence. He's kind of developed slowly, but right now he's looking like a pretty solid middle six player, especially in the playoffs. He was a half point per game in the playoffs, an absolute beast, especially in the clutch moments, and this past season wasn't bad either in the regular season. Played 71 NHL games for the Bruins, got 8 goals, 13 assists for 21 points. He's very effective offensively, not in the points, but just in the overall play driving. He creates scoring chances a lot, which is a big thing. He's also very solid defensively, and you know I like that two-way game. Moving on to the Buffalo Sabres' most underrated player, I have Evan Rodrigues. He's a center at age 26, went undrafted in the first few years of his career, but has slowly made his way up into a pretty solid NHL player. This past season with Buffalo, played 74 NHL games, got 9 goals, 20 assists for 29 points, and Rodrigues was kind of the guy in that 10-game winning streak. He was good, but he was also good throughout the whole season. He was consistently decent offensively. I think for Buffalo, that's what they really do need. He doesn't have the greatest advanced stats, but defensively, he is still pretty solid. He's able to get those clutch goals and those clutch points. And moving on to the Calgary Flames' most underrated player, I have Andrew Mangiapane. He's a left winger, age 23. He was drafted 166th overall in the 2015 NHL draft, and Mangiapane had a very good season last season. Didn't put up the crazy points that you maybe expect from him coming out of the AHL, but was still very solid. Had 44 NHL games last season, got 8 goals, 5 assists for 13 points, and Mangiapane has a ton of skill offensively. Again, he didn't put up the crazy point totals, but from what I saw from Calgary, he was very highly skilled, got some clutch goals in there too, and was able to get it done offensively. Defensively, I think he's very underrated too. I saw a lot of games where he was very effective, very fast, and very good IQ-wise. And moving on to the Bunch of Jerks' most underrated player, I have Dougie Hamilton. Defenseman at age 26, drafted 9th overall in the 2011 NHL draft. This past season got a full 82 games in, 18 goals, 21 assists for 39 points. Now I personally think he's one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL, and very sneakily. But those points don't strike as one of the best offensive defensemen. But his advanced stats do. His expected goals is one of the best in the NHL, not even just for defensemen, but just overall. He's been an absolute beast, and I can see why he has those great advanced stats. He gets it done while he's a little bit slower of a player, still is able to be so productive and effective offensively. Moving on to the Blackhawks' most underrated player, I have Drake Caggiula. He's a left winger, age 25, also went undrafted, so he's been making his way up to the NHL, and has become a pretty solid NHL player. This past season for Chicago, when he was healthy, played 55 NHL games, getting 12 goals, 11 assists for 23 points. I think Caggiula is a sneaky good middle six option. When he is healthy, he is solid, and obviously getting out of Edmonton will definitely help. Moving on to the Colorado Avalanche most underrated player, I have Jonas Donskoi, and saying he's on the Avalanche as a Sharks fan kind of just trips me out. But, of course, signing the new contract with the Avalanche, I think he definitely gets underappreciated, and he's gotten underappreciated a lot in the last couple of years. Now, Donskoi this past season with San Jose got 80 games, got 14 goals, 23 assists for 37 points. And everybody knows how good he is defensively because he's a defensive beast. That is the plain fact. He is so effective defensively. But I think the offense also gets underrated on his part. Again, 37 points with San Jose is nothing to scoff at, and Avalanche already having that defense in Donskoi, but having that added offense. And if he plays with guys like Nathan MacKinnon and Gabriel Landeskog, that'll be pretty fun to watch. Moving on to the Columbus Blue Jackets most underrated player, I have Josh Anderson. Right winger at age 25, he was drafted 95th overall in the 2012 NHL draft, and since then Josh Anderson has been a pretty sneaky, amazing NHL player with a ton of production in the past couple of years. This past season played a full 82 games, got 27 goals, 20 assists for 47 points. And when it comes to Anderson, I think Blue Jackets fans love him. I think they love him and appreciate him enough, but I don't think the NHL world quite appreciates what he's done in the past couple of years. I think he's one of the more quiet, almost 30 goal scorers, and that's the case in the past couple of years too. Moving on to my favorite team, the Dallas Stars. For my most underrated Stars player, I have my boy, Roope Hintz. He's a left winger at age 22. He was drafted 49th overall in the 2015 NHL draft, and I have always loved Roope, even before we drafted him. I've always been a big fan of what he can bring at the NHL level, and these past playoffs, we saw what he could truly bring, and could possibly be a top 6 player as soon as next season for Dallas. This past season, the regular season, played 58 NHL games, getting 9 goals, 13 assists for 22 points. In the playoffs, though, he just took it to a whole different level. Offensively, he was clutch, he was effective, and he got it done. And the skill that he also showed in the playoffs was amazing, especially versus the Nashville Predators. Moving on to the Detroit Red Wings most underrated player, I have Tyler Bertuzzi. Left winger, age 24, drafted 58th overall back in the 2013 NHL draft. And Bertuzzi this past season had a little bit of a breakout year, playing 73 NHL games, getting 21 goals, 26 assists for 47 points overall. And Bertuzzi offensively, I think, is one of the most underrated guys on Detroit especially. A team that doesn't score many goals, but Bertuzzi was one of the clutch guys on that team, and they definitely needed that. Bertuzzi, again, is still young at age 24, right now in the prime of his career. If he gets some more help too, I could see him possibly getting a 60-point season in the next couple of years. He is that good and that effective. Moving on to the Edmonton Oilers most underrated player, and I'm going to be honest, it wasn't that easy to pick, but my guy is Matt Benning. Defenseman at age 25, drafted 175th overall back in the 2012 NHL draft. Benning this past season with Edmonton played 70 NHL games, getting 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points. But Benning, when it comes to the stats, when it comes to the points, I don't think it shows how good he really is offensively. I think he has great impact offensively, especially on the power play where he is very, very solid when he does end up playing. But even strength, he's still very, very good. I think maybe a top 4 guy, maybe a number 4 guy offensively. And again, you don't really get that from the stats, but you get that from watching him and also some nice advanced stats that he does put up. Moving on to the Florida Panthers, a team that, quite frankly, I could put like 5 different guys in this underrated pick, but for me, my most underrated player is Evgeny Dadonov. A right winger, age 30, he was drafted 71st overall way back in the 2007 NHL draft. Dadonov this past season played a full 82 games, getting 28 goals, 42 assists for 70 points overall. And Dadonov just is an absolute beast. He is as good as those points really do entail, and he's that effective. Playing with guys like Barkov is obviously a huge boost for him, but being on the power play, he is so effective, so sturdy, and so consistent, and even strength-wise, he has so much skill to choose from, and an awesome shot. And also some good playmaking ability, obviously getting 42 assists. Now moving on to the LA Kings, a team that quite frankly does not have a lot of great players. I had to choose one guy, and I'm choosing my former Maple Leafs prospect, Carl Grundstrom. He's a right winger, age 21. He was drafted 57th overall back in the 2016 NHL draft, and Grundstrom of the LA Kings, when he was called up, was actually very, very solid. Played 15 NHL games, getting 5 goals, 1 assist for 6 points overall. And Grundstrom, I think, offensively was actually pretty effective in the NHL. Again, 6 points in 15 games as a 21-year-old, as an NHL rookie, is not bad whatsoever. He'll likely get a much bigger opportunity with LA next season, as he definitely impressed the season before. Moving Moving on to the Minnesota Wild's most underrated player, I have one of my boys, Jason Zucker. Left winger, age 27, drafted 59th overall back in the 2010 NHL draft. And I think a lot of people know that Jason Zucker is a really good player, but I don't think they know how really elite Jason Zucker actually is. Now, of course, he won the humanitarian award in the NHL awards this past season. He's an absolutely amazing human, but he's also a freaking awesome hockey player. This past season, played 81 games for Minnesota, getting 21 goals, 21 assists for 42 points overall. And when it comes to Jason Zucker, again, those points are good, but they aren't elite. And I think when it comes to the points, those are something that, yes, factor into it, but is not the overall basis on Zucker. His expected goals are absolutely through the roof. He is such an effective player, especially on the power play, and brings a ton of value to a Minnesota team that just a couple of months ago was trying to trade him. Speaking of forwards that are a lot better than you think, the Montreal Canadiens' most underrated player, in my opinion, is Brendan Gallagher. He's a right winger at age 27, drafted 147th overall back in the 2010 NHL draft, and Brendan Gallagher is one of my favorite players in the league. He's a fantastic off-ice person, but an amazing, amazing hockey player, and in my opinion, should be the captain for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, this past season, played a full 82 games, getting 33 goals, 19 assists for 52 points. But like Jason Zucker, I don't think the points really understand how good he really is, because expected goals and just watching him on the ice, he's an absolute beast, never gives up on a play, and always gets it done. Just an effective hockey player that the points don't really give too much credit for. Moving on to the Nashville Predators' most underrated player, I have UC Saros. Goaltender, age 24, drafted 99th overall back in the 2013 NHL draft. And UC Saros, I think, is the next start for the Nashville Predators. After Pekka Rinne, I think he's the guy to take that crown and just run with it. This past season, he was excellent as a backup, playing 31 NHL games, getting a .915 save percentage. And just overall, I'm a big fan of UC Saros and what he brings. He is a smaller goaltender, which does affect things. But I think overall, he's one of the more sound, calm, and skilled goaltenders in the NHL, and in the next couple of years, as he develops and rounds out his game, I think will definitely show that.Moving on to the New Jersey Devils' most underrated player, I have Damon Severson. Defenseman at age 24, drafted 60th overall back in the 2012 NHL draft, and Severson offensively had a big breakout year on a team that, quite frankly, did not score many goals. Got 82 games in, getting 11 goals, 28 assists for 39 points overall. And David Severson, I think, is overrated defensively, but very underrated offensively. I think he has such a great offensive impact, and if given playing time, will get a lot of power play minutes and a lot of effective goals. I think defensively he is still solid, but I think he's a lot more of an offensive defenseman than people give him credit for. And again, 39 points in 82 games is not bad whatsoever. Moving on to the New York Islanders' most underrated player, I have Ryan Pulock. Defenseman at age 24, drafted 15th overall in the 2013 NHL draft, and Pulock has been interesting because as a 15th overall pick, I haven't really noticed too much hype behind his name, but he's slowly developed into a good, solid NHL defenseman, and this past season took a next step into a top 4 NHL defenseman. Now, this past season played a full 82 games with the Islanders, got 9 goals, 28 assists for 37 points overall, and when it comes to Pulock both offensively and defensively, I think he's a dual threat, is very solid in both ends, and just is effective and gets it done. And as a 37-point scorer as a defenseman, I think he went very quiet, and is honestly one of the more underrated guys on New York alone. Moving on to the New York Rangers' most underrated player, and I have Chris Kreider. A left winger, age 28, drafted 19th overall in the 2009 NHL draft. And when it comes to Chris Kreider, I think he kind of suffers from the same syndrome as Jason Zucker, where people know he's good, but I don't think people know how good he really is. This past season, played 79 NHL games, got 28 goals, 24 assists for 52 points overall. And when it comes to the New York Rangers, team that barely scored any goals really, Chris Kreider was the one guy that was effective and consistent, and when he was healthy, very, very good. He's a great power play quarterback, gets a lot of effective goals there, and just even strength-wise is an absolute beast for NY. Moving on to the Ottawa Senators' most underrated player, I have Colin White. Senator at age 22, drafted 21st overall in the 2015 NHL draft, and Colin White this past season had a very solid rookie year, playing 71 games with the Sens, getting 14 goals, 27 assists for 41 points, and offensively just being an absolute beast. Yes, playing with Kachuk, playing with Mark Stone for half the season, really did help his numbers, but I think he's a very solid player and one of the better rookies in that class. The offense that he has is very, very talented too. I think we'll see that in the future. Again, he's at age 22, still very young, and can definitely improve even right now. Now moving on to the Philadelphia Flyers' most underrated player, I have Travis Sanheim. He's a defenseman at age 23, drafted 17th overall in the 2014 NHL Draft. And again, kind of like Pulock, he's a 17th overall pick, but hasn't gotten too much hype towards his name. But has slowly worked his way up to the NHL, and right now I think is definitely a top 4 defenseman. Now when it comes to Philadelphia, there were some other guys like Travis Konecny that were very, very close, but I don't really see Sanheim on that defense getting enough credit as he deserves. Last season he played a full 82 games, got 9 goals, 26 assists for 35 points overall. And the offense, those stats definitely do show how good he really is, even at age 23. Still a very solid offensive defenseman and has a lot of areas to improve in, even if he's still very good right now. Now moving on to the Pittsburgh Penguins' most underrated player, I have Marcus Pettersson. He's a defenseman at age 23, drafted 38th overall back in the 2014 NHL Draft, and yes, he's the other Pettersson. Not Elias Pettersson, but Marcus Pettersson still is a pretty solid guy. Defenseman obviously, but this past season, played with both Anaheim and Pittsburgh, actually played 84 games, which was absolutely insane. In those games, had 2 goals, 23 assists for 25 points overall, and when it comes to those stats, those are solid, but I think he has a lot more of an offensive impact than people do really entail. And with the Pittsburgh Penguins, he stepped up his game quite a bit. Was one of the more solid defensemen, both defensively and offensively. Moving on to the San Jose Sharks' most underrated player, I have Marcus Sorensen. Right winger at age 27, drafted 106th overall back in the 2010 NHL Draft, and Sorensen has taken a long time to get to that NHL path, but right now I think is a very solid and underrated player for the San Jose Sharks. This past season, played 80 games, getting 17 goals, 13 assists for 3 points, and the playoffs was also very, very solid for San Jose. And I've always been a big fan of Sorensen in San Jose's system. He has an absolutely amazing flow, which also factors into it, but offensively I think he's very effective, very solid, and on even strength and on the power play is good in both. Moving on to the Stanley Cup champions, St. Louis Blues. For our most underrated Blues player, I have Vince Dunn. Defenseman at age 22, drafted 56th overall in the 2015 NHL Draft, and Dunn in his career so far this past season played 78 NHL games, got 12 goals, 23 assists for 35 points overall. And when people say the defenseman for St. Louis, what comes to mind is Pietrangelo, Parayko, and rightfully so. Those are the top 2 guys for St. Louis, as they should be. But I don't think that Vince Dunn really gets the credit he deserves for both the regular season and the playoff run. He was absolutely lethal in both, offensively and defensively, and to me one of the more underrated players right now in the NHL. Moving on to my second favorite team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and for my most underrated Bolts player, I have Eric Cernak. Defenseman at age 22, drafted 43rd overall back in the 2015 NHL Draft, and Cernak this past season got a bigger role with Tampa, but still went kind of under the radar. He ended up playing 58 NHL games, 5 goals, 11 assists for 16 points, and those points don't strike you as amazing, but as a 22-year-old, they're still very, very solid. And I think when it comes to Cernak, both offensively and defensively, he just gets it done. And defensively, I think he's very underrated too. When it comes to Tampa's defense, I would say he's more of a top 4 guy on their defense, and with how many stud guys they have on that team in general, that's a very good compliment. Now moving on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm going to put this out there that this player, in my opinion, is the most underrated player right now in the NHL. That player being William Nylander. He's a right winger at age 23, drafted 8th overall back in the 2014 NHL Draft, and when it comes to William Nylander this past season, played 54 NHL games, got 7 goals, 20 assists for 27 points. And when it comes to William Nylander, I've seen too many people just disregard his past season as just a bad season, whatever you want to call it. But to me, William Nylander will change a lot of minds this next season, and I don't think he'll be around Mitch Marner level, but I think the stats will be a lot closer than I think a lot of people may think. William Nylander to me is still a first-line player for the Toronto Maple Leafs, should be a first-line player. He is still that good for them and that effective. And this past season, the points were really there, but all the advanced stats said that he was still performing at a good rate. He was still kind of unlucky, wasn't able to get everything going at the right time, and obviously missed training camp. With this whole new year, having training camp under and starting with the team, I think he'll have a much better season and will change a lot of people's minds for the people that really did ignore him. Moving on to the Vancouver Canucks' most underrated player, we're going to go to goaltender this time, that being Jacob Markstrom. Of course, goaltender at age 29, Swedish-born player who was drafted 31st overall in the 2008 NHL Draft, and Jacob Markstrom, again, I think is a very underrated goaltender in the NHL, a very underrated starter starter too that had a very sneaky good season with Vancouver last season. He played 60 NHL games, got a .912 save percentage, and a .912 save percentage on a year that was down when it comes to goaltending. A team that was not that great defensively for the entire season. I think a .912 save percentage for Markstrom is a big success, especially compared to what he used to have at least a few seasons ago. Moving on to my third favorite team, the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'm going to say this right now, he is the most underrated defenseman right now in the NHL. That being Shea Theodore. Defenseman at age 23, drafted 26th overall back in the 2013 NHL draft, and with Vegas this past season, played 79 games, getting 12 goals, 25 assists for 37 points overall. And I think Shea Theodore, again, people think he's a good NHL defenseman, but I don't think they really think of him as an elite NHL defenseman, and that is a big mistake, because to me, he is the best defenseman on Vegas. Nate Schmidt is good as well, but Shea Theodore to me is an elite defenseman, at least offensively. He's just such a powerhouse offensively, and 37 points, again, don't strike you as that elite powerhouse of defenseman, but all he does offensively, and the impact he has, is one of the more valuable defensemen in the NHL right now. Moving on to the Washington Capitals' most underrated player. For my Caps player, I have Richard Panik. A right winger, age 28, drafted 52nd overall back in the 2009 NHL draft. And Panik just recently in free agency signed with the Washington Capitals a multi-year deal, which for the Capitals, I think is a great deal because he is freaking awesome. This past season for Arizona, played 75 games, got 14 goals, 19 assists for 33 points. And I think Panik is misunderstood almost completely. I think a lot of people have him as a two-way player, which for him isn't really true. He's decent defensively, but the offensive impact he has is very sneakily amazing. One of the better offensive players, especially for the Arizona Coyotes. I think for the Coyotes, they'll definitely miss him. For the Washington Capitals, could be a top 6 player for them. Now for the last team I'll mention, we are finally down to the Winnipeg Jets. And for my most underrated Jets player, I have Kyle Connor. Left winger, age 22, drafted 17th overall back in the 2015 NHL draft. And Kyle Connor to me has been a big offensive impactor for the Winnipeg Jets. Even since his rookie season, he's been absolutely fantastic. This past season took a little bit of a jump, getting 82 games in, 34 goals, 32 assists for 66 points overall. And Kyle Connor, I think, is just a beast offensively. He is definitely a line driver for the Winnipeg Jets, and is one of their main generators of offense. Obviously, people think of Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, and even Patrick Laine before him, but I think that's a little bit of a mistake since Kyle Connor does so much for them. Defensively, there is definitely improvement to be made. It's not that great right now, but offensively, he is more than worth it. Since I share my opinions on every NHL team's most underrated player, I do want to say it, those are my opinions and my opinions alone. You can agree with them, you can disagree with them, whatever you need to do, but don't go attacking people because of their opinions. I saw way too much of that in the overrated players video, of people attacking me, but not just me, but other people as well. That's just not the way to do it. And again, when it comes to opinions, that's what it should be. These are not facts, these are not set in stone, these are my opinions, and that's just the way it is. But of course, with this video, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down those comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about my pick for every NHL team's most underrated player? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know. And of course, the question to you, who do you think are the most underrated players right now in the NHL? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video on my best NHL centers tier list. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my picks, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.